The Zorathian flagship, Dominion's Edge, hung in orbit over Earth like a cosmic predator poised for a kill. Its sleek, obsidian surface reflected the distant light of the sun, while thousands of smaller escort vessels formed a menacing blockade around the planet. The Zorathians, masters of interstellar conquest, were not here for diplomacy. Their history was a tale of unbroken victories, subjugating lesser civilizations with brutal efficiency. To them, Earth was merely the latest target, a blue-green gem to be plundered. Supreme Commander Varric stood at the command deck, his crimson exosuit gleaming under the ambient glow of the control panels. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he surveyed the planet below. A hush fell over the bridge as he raised his clawed hand, signaling his officers. "Begin the transmission," Varric ordered, his voice a guttural growl. Moments later, every communication device on Earth crackled to life. From smartphones to satellites, the message was unavoidable. The image of Varax's imposing figure filled screens, his voice a cold, commanding presence. "Oh, yes. Now. Yes, my lech. Inhabitants of Earth," he began. "You stand at the mercy of the Zorathian Dominion. We are a race of conquerors, and your planet has been deemed a valuable asset to our empire. You will surrender all control of your resources and submit to our rule. Refuse, and you will face annihilation." Of the ultimatum sent shockwaves across the globe. Governments scrambled to respond while panic gripped the public. For decades, humanity had speculated about the existence of extraterrestrial life. Now, confronted with irrefutable proof, the reality was far more terrifying than anyone had imagined. In a secure underground bunker in Geneva, leaders from around the world convened via holographic conference. The United Nations Emergency Council had never faced a crisis of this magnitude. The room buzzed with tension as military generals, scientists, and political figures debated their options. "We can't possibly fight them," said Prime Minister Edwards of the United Kingdom. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. A single ship in their fleet could destroy our entire planet." "Surrendering is not an option," countered General Ramirez, representing the United States. "If we give in now, we'll be enslaved for generations. We have to resist." Dr. Elena Nakamura, a leading astrophysicist, leaned forward, her voice calm but resolute. "Resistance is only viable if we understand their weaknesses. We need time to study their technology and exploit any vulnerabilities. Blind aggression will lead to our extinction." The council's deliberations were interrupted by a chime. A holographic image of Varric appeared in the center of the room. "Your indecision is expected," the alien commander sneered. "You have 48 Earth hours to comply with our demands. Attempt resistance, and you will witness the obliteration of your cities. Choose wisely." As abruptly as it appeared, the hologram vanished, leaving the council in uneasy silence. In the shadow of this crisis, humanity's greatest minds mobilized. In secret laboratories and hidden installations, teams of scientists and engineers worked around the clock to develop countermeasures. Among them was Dr. Marcus Hayes, a theoretical physicist whose groundbreaking work on quantum mechanics had been classified for years. Hayes had long warned about the importance of preparing for extraterrestrial contact, but his warnings had gone unheeded until now. "We're not entirely defenseless," Hayes explained to a team of military strategists. "Our experimental quantum disruptor could potentially disable their communication systems. If we can isolate the frequency of their fleet's network, we might have a chance to disrupt their coordination." General Ramirez crossed his arms skeptically. "How confident are you that this will work?" Hayes hesitated. It's untested on this scale, but if we don't try, we'll never know. Meanwhile, resistance movements sprang up across the globe. In the streets of major cities, protests erupted, not against the Zorathians, but against governments perceived as too passive. One such group, calling themselves the Earth Vanguard, began organizing guerrilla efforts to disrupt the alien occupation. Led by former Special Forces operative Kara Jensen, they specialized in asymmetric warfare. "We're not here to win outright," Kara told her recruits. "We're here to make them regret thinking they could take Earth without a fight." As the deadline approached, Vararic observed Earth's response with disdain. From his vantage point aboard Dominion's edge, humanity's disorganized efforts seemed laughable. The Zorathian warlord had crushed dozens of civilizations, and he saw no reason Earth would be any different. Supreme Commander," one of his officers reported. "Our scans indicate increased activity in their technological hubs. It appears they are attempting to prepare a defense." Vararic's lips curled into a predatory smile. "Let them try. It will make their eventual subjugation all the sweeter." On the surface, Dr. Hayes and his team worked tirelessly to complete the quantum disruptor. Every second counted as the Zorathian fleet's ultimatum loomed overhead. When the device was finally ready, Hayes' team transported it to a hidden base in the Rocky Mountains where it would be deployed. "We only get one shot at this," Hayes reminded the team. "If it fails, we need to fall back to conventional strategies." As the countdown to the deadline reached its final moments, the disruptor was activated. A pulse of quantum energy rippled through Earth's atmosphere, invisible but powerful. On board the Zorathian ships, chaos erupted as communication systems flickered and failed. "What is happening?" Varric demanded, his voice rising in anger. "Supreme Commander, our fleet's network is compromised," an officer reported. "We are unable to coordinate." Varric slammed his fist onto the console. "How could these primitives achieve this? Locate the source and destroy it." On Earth, the success of the disruptor ignited a spark of hope. With the Zorathians temporarily disoriented, resistance forces launched coordinated strikes against isolated ships. The Earth Vanguard led daring raids, using improvised weaponry to exploit weaknesses in the alien vessel's armor. In one such battle, Kara Jensen's team managed to disable a Zorathian dropship, capturing advanced technology that would prove invaluable in the fight to come. "Is that all they've got?" Kara quipped, as the dropship's wreckage smoldered behind her. Despite their initial success, humanity knew the Zorathians would not be defeated easily. The disruptor was only a temporary solution, and Earth's forces were still outmatched in raw firepower. But the Zorathians had underestimated humanity's determination and ingenuity. As Varric regrouped his fleet, he realized the truth too late. Earth was not a planet of helpless prey, but a world of resourceful and defiant beings who would stop at nothing to defend their home. The war for Earth had only just begun. The aftermath of the Zorathian ultimatum had left Earth's surface brimming with both anxiety and defiance. While the alien fleet temporarily staggered under the effects of the quantum disruptor, humanity's greatest strength began to shine. Its ingenuity. Across the planet, minds from all disciplines worked tirelessly, united in their determination to repel the invaders. So, in a sprawling underground facility beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Marcus Hayes and his team were reviewing the initial results of the quantum disruptor. The energy pulse had worked even better than expected, introducing a cascading failure in the Zorathian fleet's communication systems. However, Hayes knew this advantage wouldn't last. Their systems will adapt, he said, addressing a room filled with engineers, physicists, and military strategists. The disruptor bought us time, but they'll recalibrate and reinforce their networks soon. We need the next step. What about reverse engineering the tech from the captured dropship? Suggested Lydia Chang, a cybersecurity expert. If we can understand their systems better, we could create more effective countermeasures. We're already working on it, replied Dr. Elena Nakamura, who had joined the team after the initial council meeting. Their data architecture is unlike anything we've seen. It's biological and digital and a hybrid neural network, and we'll need time to decipher it. Hayes nodded. Time is the one thing we don't have. Let's double the decryption team. Meanwhile, I want prototypes for electromagnetic pulse grenades and targeting algorithms, ready for field tests. While the scientists focused on technology, Kara Jensen and her Earth Vanguard resistance fighters took the fight to the Zorathians on the ground. The captured dropship had provided invaluable intelligence on alien troop movements and weaknesses. Unlike their warships, the Zorathians' ground forces relied heavily on exoskeletons and advanced weaponry that were ill-suited for Earth's diverse terrain. In the dense jungles of the Amazon, Kara's team ambushed a Zorathian scouting party. Using camouflage and guerrilla tactics, they disabled the alien suits with electromagnetic charges, rendering their superior strength useless. The skirmish was short but brutal, leaving the Vanguard victorious. Embiid, they're not invincible, Kara said as her team salvaged alien equipment from the battlefield. We just have to keep hitting them where it hurts. The Vanguard's successes inspired similar resistance efforts worldwide. From the deserts of North Africa to the urban sprawl of Tokyo, humanity's fighters adapted alien technology to their advantage, turning the tide in small but significant ways. On board the flagship Dominion's Edge, Supreme Commander Varak seethed with frustration. The humans' defiance was unexpected, and their ability to disrupt Zorathian systems bordered on insulting. "Report!" he barked at his chief engineer. The engineer's scales shimmered nervously. "Supreme Commander, their quantum disruptor has introduced a recursive fault in our fleet's synchronization protocols. Our attempts to recalibrate have been, inefficient." Varek's claws tapped rhythmically against the armrest of his command chair. "And their ground resistance?" Said Vark. "And their ground resistance," said Vark, speechlessly. "Persistent but localized," replied another officer. "We've identified key resistance cells, but their adaptability is remarkable. They're using our own technology against us." The commander's eyes burned with rage. "Then it's time to escalate. Deploy the terraforming array. If the humans insist on fighting for their planet, we will reshape it beneath them." Back on Earth, satellite images revealed the Zorathians' new strategy. High above the Pacific Ocean, massive structures descended from the fleet. These terraforming devices began emitting beams of energy into the atmosphere, triggering violent weather patterns and seismic disturbances. Cities along the Pacific Rim experienced unprecedented earthquakes and storms. "They're trying to destabilize our environment," Dr. Nakamura explained during a crisis briefing. "If this continues, Earth will become uninhabitable within weeks." General Ramirez slammed his fist on the table. "We can't let that happen. What's our countermeasure?" "The quantum disruptor can't reach those arrays," Hayes admitted. "But we're working on a new weapon, a directed energy system capable of targeting their infrastructure from the ground." "How long until it's operational?" Ramirez demanded. 3 days, Hayes replied. "Until then, we'll need to rely on conventional forces to protect critical areas. In the face of environmental devastation, humanity's ingenuity accelerated. Engineers repurposed satellite networks to track terraforming devices, while aerospace companies modified civilian drones for combat missions. Civilians, too, played their part. Hackers disrupted Zorathian data streams, while grassroots organizations coordinated food and medical supplies for affected regions. Maybe they're not going to eat me. One notable breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of teenage coders in Bangalore managed to decode a Zorathian signal intercepted during a battle. The signal revealed the aliens' operational frequencies, allowing Earth's forces to jam their communications more effectively. Never underestimate the power of bored teenagers with laptops, Hayes quipped when he heard the news. By the time the directed energy weapon, dubbed Project Skyfire, was ready, the situation had grown dire. Coastal cities were evacuating en masse, and Earth's ecosystems were under severe strain. Kara Jensen and her Vanguard unit volunteered to deploy the weapon, knowing the mission would place them deep within enemy-controlled territory. If this works, we might just buy Earth a fighting chance, Kara said as her team prepared to infiltrate the Zorathians' perimeter. Under cover of darkness, the Vanguard transported Skyfire's components to a launch site in the Andes Mountains. Despite heavy resistance, they managed to assemble and activate the weapon. A beam of concentrated energy shot skyward, striking the nearest terraforming array. The array exploded in a spectacular burst of light, its destruction sending shockwaves through the Zorathian fleet. Across the Pacific, the other arrays began to falter, their systems disrupted by the loss of the primary node. On board Dominion's Edge, Varric watched in disbelief as his carefully laid plans unraveled. The humans had done the impossible. They had neutralized one of the Dominion's most advanced technologies. So, he demanded, his voice of fury and desperation, how can these primitives defy us? An officer hesitated before replying. Supreme Commander, it appears their ingenuity surpasses our expectations. They are adaptive. Varric's claws clenched. For the first time in his long career, doubt crept into his mind. Perhaps the humans were not as inferior as he had believed. On Earth, the destruction of the terraforming array marked a turning point. While the battle was far from over, humanity had proven it could stand against the Zorathians. In the words of Kara Jensen, this isn't just a fight for survival. It's a fight to show them who we are. As Earth's forces regrouped for the next phase of the conflict, one thing was clear. Humanity's ingenuity had turned the tide, and the Zorathians would soon realize the full extent of their mistake in underestimating the people of Earth. Turning the tide. The destruction of the primary Zorathian terraforming array reverberated through Earth and the alien fleet alike. For humanity, it was a moment of triumph, proof that their ingenuity could challenge even the most advanced extraterrestrial technology. For the Zorathians, it was a wake-up call that their presumed dominance was no longer guaranteed. So, there comes a time, the cost of victory. In the aftermath of the Skyfire mission, Kara Jensen and her Earth Vanguard unit regrouped in the Andes, their makeshift base nestled deep in a rugged valley. Despite their success, the toll of the mission was evident. Supplies were dwindling, and several team members bore the scars of battle. And then, we won a battle, not the war, Kara said during a debriefing. Her tone was resolute, but her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. The Zorathians are already adapting. If we don't keep pushing, we'll lose what little ground we've gained. 2 days ago, then. Isn't that what you're telling me, too? Patched in via a secure satellite link, nodded gravely. We've analyzed the fallout from the array's destruction. It disrupted their fleet, but only temporarily. We need to strike their command structure next. How? Asked Lydia Chang, the team's cybersecurity expert. Their flagship is a fortress. Even if we could locate it, we'd never breach their defenses. We might not have to, Hayes replied. Our decryption team made progress with the data from the captured dropship. We believe the Zorathians' neural network, the one controlling their fleet, has a central nexus. If we can infiltrate it, we could disable their entire command system. You're talking about hacking an alien brain, Kara said skeptically. Essentially, yes, Hayes admitted. But we'll need a team to get close enough to upload the virus. That's where you come in. The Nexus plan. The Zorathian neural nexus was located in orbit, housed within a massive satellite shielded by a fleet of warships. Getting to it would require more than stealth. It would require a distraction powerful enough to draw the fleet away. Operation Phantom Decoy, General Ramirez proposed during a global strategy meeting. We'll launch simultaneous assaults on their ground installations to force them to divide their attention. Meanwhile, Kara's team will infiltrate the Nexus using a modified stealth craft. And if they catch us? Kara asked. Then we'll have lost our best shot at ending this, Ramirez replied bluntly. Preparations for the operation began immediately. Engineers and technicians worked around the clock to retrofit an old space shuttle with advanced cloaking technology, while Kara's team underwent rigorous training for zero-gravity combat. The decoy strikes. As the day of the mission arrived, Earth's forces launched coordinated attacks across the globe. In the deserts of North Africa, resistance fighters bombarded a Zorathian outpost with EMP artillery. In the ruins of Los Angeles, urban guerrillas ambushed enemy patrols. Even in the icy expanses of Siberia, snipers and demolition experts disrupted alien supply lines. Now, you might ask why I haven't put that video in today's show notes, but I'll get back to you on that in a second. And then the war finally began in December. The Zorathian response was swift and brutal. Warships descended to reinforce ground troops, their plasma cannons reducing entire cities to rubble. But amidst the chaos, the distraction served its purpose. The majority of the fleet moved into low orbit to support ground operations, leaving the neural nexus with minimal protection. The infiltration. The stealth shuttle, nicknamed Shadowlance, launched under cover of darkness. Kara and her team, Lydia Chang, combat specialist Darius Cole, and engineer Anika Patel, sat silently as the craft ascended through Earth's atmosphere. The weight of their mission pressed heavily on them. Approaching the target, Anika announced, her voice steady despite the tension. To the shuttle's viewport, the Nexus came into view. It was an imposing structure, a vast sphere of shimmering metal and pulsing light. Automated turrets and drone swarms patrolled its perimeter, but the reduced fleet presence left a narrow window of opportunity. Activating cloaking field, Lydia said, typing commands into her console. The shuttle shimmered and vanished from sight, invisible to both visual and radar detection. As they neared the Nexus, Kara gave the final instructions. Stick to the plan. Lydia, you handle the upload. Durs and I will cover you. Anika, stay with the shuttle and be ready for extraction. Inside the beast. Docking with the Nexus was perilous, but Anika's precise piloting brought them in undetected. The team disembarked, navigating the alien corridors with a mix of awe and unease. The walls pulsed with the faint, bioluminescent glow, and the air thrummed with energy. This place feels alive, Darius muttered, his weapon at the ready. But it's literally, it probably is, Lydia replied. The neural network might have biological components. Reaching the central hub, they found the neural core. A massive, translucent orb suspended in midair, its surface rippling with streams of data. Lydia hurried to connect her equipment, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she initiated the virus upload. How long? Kara asked, scanning the room for threats. 5 minutes, Lydia replied. Maybe less if their defenses don't kick in. As if on cue, an alarm blared, the orb's surface darkened, and mechanical appendages emerged from the walls, each armed with plasma weaponry. Defense as it is, Darius said grimly, opening fire. The last stand. The team fought desperately, holding off the automated defenses as Lydia worked. Kara's rifle precision and Darius's brute strength kept the enemy at bay, but the odds were overwhelming. Just as a turret's blast grazed her shoulder, Lydia shouted, "Upload complete!" "Fall back," Kara ordered, covering Lydia as they retreated to the shuttle. Nika had the engines roaring by the time they arrived, and the Shadowlance shot away from the nexus, dodging a hail of plasma fire. Behind them, the orb began to implode, its destruction sending shockwaves through the Zorathian fleet. A turning point. On Earth, the effects were immediate. The neural network's collapse left the Zorathian fleet in disarray, ships collided, drones fell from the sky, and ground troops became uncoordinated and vulnerable. Human forces seized the opportunity, launching counterattacks that pushed the Zorathians back on every front. Cities that had been on the brink of annihilation began to see hope. The aftermath. As the Shadowlands returned to Earth, Kara and her team were hailed as heroes. But their victory was bittersweet. The war was far from over, and the cost had been staggering. Within a few months, Kara's world had been burned away, and it was scattered sectors beyond her control. In a broadcast to the world, General Ramirez addressed humanity. Today, we proved that we are not powerless. Our ingenuity and courage turned the tide. But the fight continues. Together, we will reclaim our planet. Kara, watching from the Vanguard's headquarters, turned to her team. We've bought ourselves a chance. Let's make it count. The Zorathians had underestimated humanity. And now they faced an enemy they could no longer ignore. The tide had turned, but the war for Earth was just beginning.